In this video, I'm going to go through the entire process of creating a Facebook ad campaign and Instagram ad campaign from scratch. So if you've never run a Facebook ad before, or you have, but you're not sure that you set up everything correctly, this is the exact video that you need. It's going to walk you through every single step, every single setting that you need to get right. So let's start right at the beginning and set up the business manager account that you need to run Facebook ads the best way. There are a number of different ways that you can run Facebook ads and Instagram ads. You can do it from within app, you can boost posts. But setting up a business manager account that then holds all your meta assets, so things like your Facebook page, your Instagram account, your ad account within a business manager, is by far the best way to organize it. You have more functionality that way. You can give other people access if you want other team members or people you hire to work on your stuff. It's definitely the best way to go about it. And it's also easier to resolve issues if you ever do have issues with your ad accounts or your pages getting access and things along those lines. So you do that by coming through to business.facebook.com/overview, the page I'm on right now. And depending on whether you're logged into your Facebook account or not, and if you've got a business manager set up, you'll see different things here. So if you see a different screen here to what I've got, don't worry about that. But what you want to do is you need to make sure that you are logged into your Facebook profile. In order to set this up, you'll need to do that first. And then you just want to go ahead and click on this create an account button. Now, I can't unfortunately show you exactly how that works because we've already got a number of business managers. We're a Facebook ads agency. We run ad campaigns for clients and we have a number of business managers already. So we can't set up another one. Meta does limit you on those. But if you've not set up one before, you just click on create an account. It's very straightforward. You just add in some information about your business, just sort of stuff that you'd expect. And then once you've done that, you'll go through probably to your Meta Business Suite, which looks like this. Again, yours might look quite different because you won't have things set up like what I've got set up, but you'll come through to your Meta Business Suite, and this is a really handy place to do a number of things related to your business on Meta. So you can answer with this inbox, for example, you can answer messages that you receive via Facebook and Instagram. You can respond to comments on your ads or posts on Facebook and Instagram. Lead Center is a place where you can access the leads you've generated. Planner, you can schedule posts again on Facebook and Instagram. A whole bunch of things that you can do from within it, and you can actually run ads from within your Meta Business Suite. But this is not where I want to focus because it's not where you should be spending your most time, particularly as a beginner Facebook advertiser. What we want to do is go over to business settings, because that's going to allow us to add in those assets. Now you've got a business manager account, we can add in those assets, things like your Facebook page, Instagram account, ad account that I mentioned, or create them if you don't already have them. So the way you do that, you get there is by simply clicking on all tools and then selecting settings from over here, and that'll take you through to a page that looks just like this. Again, yours might look a little bit different because you won't have all these pages added in like we do and all the various things, because obviously we have hundreds of clients live at any one time, and if you're getting this set up for the first time, you're very unlikely to have that set up. Okay, so what we can see here on this left hand side from within business settings is there's lots of different types of things that we can get added into our business account. We can add people, we can add pages, ad accounts, Instagram accounts, WhatsApp accounts, data sources, things like pixels, catalogs, data sets, custom conversions, loads of different things. It can get really, really confusing if you aren't familiar with this setup. But I want to make it as simple as I possibly can for you guys at this point, and just focus on the things that you really need to do right now or might need to do in the near future in order to be able to run Facebook ad campaigns. I'm a big believer in starting simple. Let's do this as easy as we can, and then you can always add in complexity when you feel more comfortable and you're more familiar with the setup. When you come through to this page, the first category that will be automatically selected is pages. If it's not, just go ahead and click on pages, because this is where we want to start. Because the first thing you need to do to get your business manager up and running properly is add in a Facebook page. If you're going to run Facebook ads, you need to do so from a Facebook page. So select pages and then click on this little add button. Now there are three different options. If you don't already have a Facebook page, you can quite simply click on create a new page. And if you do that, you'll be taken to the place where you would normally be taken to create a Facebook page. It works in exactly the same way. Very straightforward. You set up your profile picture and all the stuff you would expect, right? Again, I'm not going to do that because we probably have 200 plus Facebook pages in our business manager right now. We don't need any more. The other option that will apply to a number of people watching this video, I imagine, is add a page. Now this applies if you've already created a Facebook page, but you haven't had that within a business manager account setup. So it might be that you've just been operating that Facebook page via your Facebook profile, for example, is typically how that would work. I would recommend that you bring that into the business manager, as I've already said. And if you select this option, and then what you want to do is simply add in your Facebook page name, so you can just type it in or go to your Facebook page, grab the URL, paste that in here, and then click add a page. That will move the ownership of your Facebook page into this business manager account, which is something that I would recommend you do. It's more secure in a business manager account as opposed to just being loose, as it were, you know, where you have access through your Facebook profile and you move ownership and get that in there. Fairly straightforward to do. The other option is request access to a page. So this is the option you want to select if you don't want to claim ownership of a Facebook page, but you do need access to a Facebook page. So we use this option all the time as an agency because we're not trying to take ownership of our clients' pages, but we do need access to them to be able to give our various team members access and also for them to be able to do the work that needs to be done for us to, you know, fulfill our services of running ads and stuff like that, okay? So again, you just request access to a page and exactly the same. You enter in your Facebook page name or URL and you are good to go. Okay, so that's Facebook page. Go ahead and get that added in first. Next thing we want to do is go ahead and select ad accounts. And this is a very, very similar structure. So once you've selected ad accounts, click on this add button. Again, you can create a new ad account. You click on that and it will ask you a bunch of questions about your business, ask you to enter in billing information. I'm going to specifically touch on that in a bit, so don't worry about that too much. But you can create a new ad account, fairly straightforward to do. If you've run ads of any kind, even if it's just boosting posts, for example, you will already have an ad account set up, in which case you want to go ahead and click on this add ad account, again, to move ownership of the ad account into your business manager. And to do that, you just want to very simply enter in your ad account ID, click add ad account. Whoever is an admin of that ad account already then needs to approve that request to move it over. But you should receive a notification. If it's just your personal profile that's been boosting posts, for example, you should receive a notification where you can just accept that and then it's done. And I will show you in a minute, by the way, where you get your ad account ID from, in case you're thinking, where on earth do I get that from? And then also you can do the request access to an ad account just like with a Facebook page, and it's very similar. You just get the ad account ID, ask for that off your client if that's what we're doing, what we would do all the time, enter it in here, and then request access. Again, an admin needs to approve that request, but there you go. So that's ad accounts. You probably want to add in an Instagram account as well if you're going to be running ads on Instagram as well as Facebook, which is what I'd recommend for most advertisers. Slightly different structure in here. Once you select ad accounts, you can click on add and you need to connect your Instagram account, basically log in, and then you have a number of different options, but fairly straightforward once more. So as I said, there's lots of other options in terms of data sources and assets, but I think that's what we need to get started with, and we can worry about the other stuff later. The one other thing I want to mention in here before we actually get into creating the ad campaign, which is what I'm sure you are here to see, is adding people. Adding people is really useful if you want to add team members to be able to work on your account, or if you're going to hire someone to work on your account, you can add people in here. So if you select people and then you go ahead and click on add people, then you just want to enter the email address that is the one associated with their Facebook profile. Enter that in there, click next, they'll receive a notification to accept that. Once they do, they'll be moved into your business manager account. And by the way, they could still be members of other business managers. It's not like an exclusive thing or anything like that. So you don't need to worry about that if given the way I worded it, that might have been a concern that you had. And then once you've added people in, you then need to give them access to the specific assets that they need access to. So for a business like ours, for example, we have 100 plus clients live at any one time. We have 40 different staff members. So we need to give different staff members access to different ad accounts, different pages and all that sort of stuff. And it's really easy to do that within the business manager setup, okay? So let's say, for example, you've added in someone from your team, someone you've hired to help you with this stuff. Then you just come into pages. Once you've got them added in, so for example, if I select my page, then I make sure I've got the right page there selected. I can then click on add people. Okay, and then the person that you've added to your business manager should be available on this list on the left-hand side. If I then select myself, for example, I can then decide what level of access I want them to have. Do I want this person to have access to absolutely everything? Do I want to have them give them partial access? And you can read through the descriptions of what each level of access will allow people to do and not do, because you may want to mix it up. You will also need to do this with yourself, by the way. So make sure you get yourself added into your business manager, your own profile, and then give yourself access to the assets that you need, things like Facebook page, ad account, and for that you're obviously going to want to go with full control, okay? But that's how that works, and you can add as many people as you want, and you can give people access to lots of different assets. There's not really restrictions around that. Okay, so that's our setup within business settings. That's the boring part. Now let's go ahead and jump into Ads Manager, where we're actually going to go ahead and create our first Facebook ad campaign. So Ads Manager is definitely the place where you want to create your campaigns from. That gives you the most functionality. So if you click on these three little lines, and then it might be up here in your shortcuts, Ads Manager, as it is for me. In fact, I bet it will be. If not, you can find it down here under Advertise, and you click on Ads Manager and you will come through to hopefully a page that looks similar to this. So this is just an example ad account that I've got set up. There's nothing in here right now. Yours shouldn't have anything in here, but we can use this for demonstration purposes. Just a quick aside, that ad account ID that I mentioned, that's this number up at the top. And if it's cut off like it is for me here, then you can just click on this little drop down and it should be there for you. And you can grab the whole ID and enter that in to be able to move your ad account over into your Business Manager account like we discussed. Okay, so that's where you grab your ad account ID from. Now let's get into the actual creating of a Facebook ad campaign. So the first thing that you'll notice in here is that there's 3 tiers to a Facebook ad campaign. And this applies to Instagram as well, by the way. We're going to run all of it out of this one central location. So we've got this campaign level, then we've got the ad set level, and then we've got ads. And they are in tiers. So you have a campaign, and then within that campaign, you have one or multiple ad sets. And then within each one of those ad sets, you have one or multiple ads. That's the structure. So I'm going to walk you through each one of these because the campaign level, ad set level, ad level, you set up different things at those stages. So ad sets, targeting, for example. Ads is the imagery and the text that people see. Campaigns is things like settings. So we're going to go through each one of these. So first thing we want to do is go to campaigns. We want to make sure we're at the campaign level and then select this green plus create button. Now the very first thing that we need to decide at the campaign level is buying type. Okay, so the default here is auction. If we click on the drop down, we'll see there's auction or reservation. Now, this is a good point to quickly explain something that's quite important, a little aside, and that is not all Facebook ad accounts look exactly the same. And what I mean by that is when Meta makes changes or releases new features, they roll it out to different ad accounts at different times. They do that to make sure that things don't go wrong and it doesn't all break with a new feature. So what that means is that what you see as you go through this tutorial might look a bit different in some places to what I've got in front of me. A lot of people look very, very similar. Some people might look a little bit more different because, as I said, they're testing new features, they're testing new interfaces all the time. And that's whether you're watching this right now as I'm recording it, which is obviously not possible, or if you're watching this in 6 months' time or whatever, right? It's still going to be the same thing. So you may not see reservation, for example. I know that's something that our ad accounts have, not all ad accounts have at this point. But I wanted to talk through these 2 options because if you do have this, this is important. So what does buying type mean? Buying type refers to how you're going to pay for your Facebook ads. Auction is I'm willing to accept market price. Market price set by demand and supply. How many people are on Facebook and Instagram using it? How much ad real estate is there, how much ad inventory is there versus demand, how many advertisers are trying to reach these people, and the more popular a group of people are in terms of advertisers wanting to reach them, the more expensive they're going to be. That's how an auction works. Reservation, on the other hand, works in more of a traditional advertising setup. If you think about, for example, buying a slot on a TV show, you want to run commercials on a TV show, you would book in a certain price, it would guarantee this many exposures over this many episodes, and that would be not set by the market in real time. It would be, this is what we're paying for, we've got that reserved, hence the reservation. Now, given how I've described that, you may be thinking, okay, well surely we want to go with reservation, right? Because we can book in probably a lower price. No, you want to go with auction. Every single Facebook ads beginner wants to go with auction. Reservation is much more advanced. There are limited features. So for example, if I select reservation, you'll see that a whole bunch of campaign objectives disappear. That's not what we want, particularly because some of the most important ones disappear. And there are other issues with it in terms of optimization and not being able to utilize Meta's machine learning processes to get you the best possible results, which you absolutely want to do. And I'll explain more about that as we go through this campaign objective section. So even though it might sound like reservation's better, it's not particularly for beginners. There are some cases where you can use it as a more advanced advertiser. I've got separate videos on that. I'll include a link in the description in case you are interested in using reservation. But for now, go with auction. Okay, anyway, let's move on to the campaign objectives. So let's quickly walk through each one of these. Now, there used to be a lot more campaign objectives, and they were consolidated down to just 6, and I think that's a good idea. And they're actually now very descriptive of what it is that they get you. And one thing that I really want to get across, if you're new to Facebook and Instagram advertising, is that what you ask Meta to get you is what they will get you. Their AI, their machine learning process is very, very smart. It's very good at working out who is likely to take the action that you've asked for. So if you go ahead and select awareness, Meta is going to put your ads in front of as many people as possible. We're going to try and get you as many eyeballs, typically used by bigger businesses that have big budgets that want massive brand exposure. If you select traffic, Meta is going to try and get you as many clicks as possible. And they're very good at working out who is most likely to click on an ad. And it might be different from someone that's just going to look at it, as an example. Engagement, who is most likely to comment, like, share, watch a video if you're running a video ad. Those are various forms of engagement. Who is most likely to do that? Let's go ahead and get those options. Now, the next two that I want to talk about, I'll pause at promotion for a second, is leads and sales. Now, these function very, very similarly in terms of, instead of optimizing for these higher actions, and by higher I mean further up the sales funnel actions. So for example, someone clicking on an ad has to happen before they go through and then purchase via your website. So it's higher up in the funnel. Whereas leads and sales are lower down the sales funnel actions. Now, if for example, you're a service-based business and you want leads, and you select leads as the campaign objective, Meta is going to try and get you as many leads as possible. And here's how that might differ. The people that click on your ad might not be the same people that actually go through and become a lead. Let's assume you're sending people to your website. I know that might sound a little bit weird. You think surely the people that click are also the ones that like to become leads. Not necessarily. It doesn't work out like that. The difference in terms of your cost per lead, which is probably a far more important metric to your business than cost per click, the difference between your cost per lead if you select the traffic objective or the lead objective is massive. And this is very well tested, proven. Anyone who has run ads on these platforms for a long time can attest to this, right? So if you want leads, or if you want sales, you're an e-commerce business, you're sending people somewhere where they can directly purchase, then you want to go with leads or sales. And basically every Facebook advertiser should be running leads, sales campaigns. There are more advanced use cases and scenarios where you want to use things like awareness or engagement or even traffic, and I have videos covering all of those. There'll be a bunch of links in the description below if you want to check those out, but definitely not for beginners. These things get far more complicated and they can go wrong much more easily. You just want to say to Meta, I've got an e-commerce business, I want sales, get me sales, select sales. Or I've got a service-based business, I want leads, get me leads. And then obviously there are different businesses that fall into those categories, and that's how that works, okay? So I know I'm repeating myself a little bit here, but I really want to get that across, that it's very, very important. If you go with engagement, you will get lots of engagement. You get lots of comments and likes and shares, but those people are far less likely to go on and become a lead or purchase than if you go with one of these actions here. So for demonstration purposes, for the rest of this video, I'm going to be using the leads campaign objective, but it's very, very similar in terms of structure, strategy to the sales objective. So whether you're running sales or leads, you can absolutely follow along with what we've got here. Oh, just quickly, app promotion is exactly what you expect, right? It's if you've got an app. So you're trying to get installs for an app or people to, who already installed it to purchase something in app, to trigger an in-app purchase, you can go with app. But that's a fairly niche use case depending on your business. Okay, so we're gonna go with leads and select continue. Now, we can see the structure here has been changed in terms of the UI. So we've got campaigns, we've got ad set, and we've got ads. Again, remember they're sort of one within another is how that's structured. And then there's a few things that we need to get sorted at the campaign level before we then move on to the ad set level, okay? So first thing is give your campaign a name. You may only have one campaign now, but at some point you're probably gonna have lots of campaigns, and it's really useful to be able to know which campaign refers to what. So let's say, for example, we were running a New Year leads campaign. We're a gym or something, for example, and we're taking advantage of the New Year. Just give it a quick little name like I've done there. That's going to depend on your business, of course. Then we get into special ad categories. So I'm going to just select this little drop down here, and we can see that there are 4 different special ad categories. We've got credit, employment, housing, social issues, elections, or politics. Now, if your business is related, what you're offering is related to any one of these, you have to select and declare that it is by ticking a box, okay? So, and you can see there's a good description on each one, so it should be fairly obvious, credit, are you advertising anything to do with credit cards, auto loans, financing options, etc., etc. Employment, are you advertising a job offer? And you can go down the list. Now, when you do select special ad category, a declare one, unfortunately, it limits some of the options in terms of the campaign setup. So for example, your targeting options will be limited, and Meta's trying to do that because they're trying to prevent advertisers from doing things that are seen as a bit creepy, a bit shady. You know, do you want an advertiser targeting like specific groups of people to do with like credit opportunities where they don't want to go near any of that sort of stuff. So that's why it's limited. If you do select a special ad category, but you do need to declare a special ad category if you are within one, because if you don't and think, well, I don't want my targeting options limited, I'm not going to declare it. But if your ads are related to any of these things and Meta realizes that and you haven't declared it, then they will disable your ad account and you won't be able to advertise anymore.
This is fine.
So definitely something that you want to do. Oh, and then if you do select a special ad category, you then need to select the country, because there are different rules around different things, different privacy rules and all sort of stuff in different locations. I imagine most of you watching this are not going to fall within a special ad category, and therefore I'm not going to select one. If you are within a special ad category, you can still follow along. There'll just be a couple of things we go through you just won't be able to do, and you'll see that within your ad account. Okay, then we've got the campaign details. We've got buying type auction, campaign objective leads we've already set. If I just click on show more options, I want to quickly highlight something, which is you can set a campaign spending limit. I know for a lot of beginners, they feel really quite nervous about, oh, what if I spend too much? And I've heard a bad story of someone that the budget ran away and they forgot about it and they got charged thousands, and I don't want that. Well, you can prevent that by coming in, setting a campaign spending limit. So whatever would make you comfortable, I don't want to spend more than £500 in this campaign, or whatever the number is, enter that in there, and it's just a bit of security. You can come in and change this later if you decide you do want to spend more. So I don't bother adding them in, but I completely understand if you're a beginner why you would want to do that. It's probably a good idea. A/B testing, not something I would worry about at this stage. A/B testing allows you to test one thing against another thing. So if you've got two ads, for example, you could run them alongside each other and see which one performs best. Not something I would worry about at this stage, a bit more of a intermediate advanced technique. You can still test different ads. I'm going to show you how to do that without using the A/B split testing feature. So we're going to ignore that for the purposes of this video. Then we get down into Advantage Campaign Budget. Okay, I'm just going to turn this on. Now, Advantage Campaign Budget, what used to be called Campaign Budget Optimization, is something I'd recommend beginners use. Just to explain what it actually does and what difference it makes. The default is for your budget to be set at the ad set level. When you turn on Advantage Campaign Budget, instead of the budget being set at the ad set level, it's set at the campaign level. And what that means is that, let's say you have 3 different ad sets within a campaign. You know, you're testing different targeting options to see which performs best, something we do all the time. One of those ad sets is probably going to perform significantly better than the other 2, or 2 will significantly outperform one of them. With Advantage Campaign Budget, Meta is going to allocate budget to the best performing ad sets, more budget to the best performing ad sets. So instead of just spending evenly across ad sets and having individual budget at the ad set level, you'll have more spent where you're getting better results, which is going to give you better results overall. And I think for beginners is really useful because, again, it's less likely that you're going to waste money on underperforming ad sets within your campaign. As an advanced advertiser, you often don't want to use Advantage Campaign Budget because you want more control and you want to be able to manipulate things because you know what you're doing, but it's not something I'd recommend beginners do. I think it can get quite tricky. Okay, next we've got our budget option, the setting here. So the default is daily budget, or we got lifetime budget. Daily budget is I want to spend this amount and I will run the campaign until I want to turn it off, like designed to be ongoing. With lifetime budget, you're actually setting a time frame. So you're sending, instead of saying I want to spend this amount per day, you're saying I want to spend this amount total over a week. And then Meta will allocate budget across that week, and they might spend more on one day and less on another, and all that sort of stuff. I think for most Facebook advertisers, daily budget is the better option, because if the campaign's working well, you don't want it to end and have to create a new one. You want to be able to keep running it. Daily budget campaigns are also a lot easier to scale because, again, you're not going to have an end date and then have to create a new one. You can just scale from within that campaign that's performed well. So my advice for the vast majority of advertisers is just to stick to daily budgets, which is the default. Then in terms of an amount to spend, okay, what I think you're aiming for is the sweet spot of money that you can afford to lose. Particularly when you're new to Facebook advertising, there's a good chance your campaign won't work really well straight away. You might have to create a few different versions. You might have to develop your skills in this arena a little bit to get there. Remember, when you're running Facebook ads, you're competing against other advertisers, many of which will have more experience. So I think that starting with the amount you can afford to lose is just a good idea. But it doesn't want to be so small that you don't care about it. You don't just want to be like, I've got a Facebook ad campaign running. It's spending such a small amount of money that who cares? It's not going to do anything for my business, whether it works or not. That seems a bit silly. You want to be invested. There's normally a sweet spot for most people, most businesses, depending on your finances, where you're like, we could lose this, but it would sting a little. We wouldn't be in trouble, but sting a little. And that's probably a good starting point. And again, that's going to depend. For some businesses, that's going to be, you know, millions even, if they're a big enough business. For some, it's going to be, you know, $10 a day. So it's absolutely fine to just start with whatever is most comfortable from that standpoint, okay? So that's what I'd recommend starting on budgets. Then we've got campaign bid strategy. So if I go ahead and click edit here, we can see that this is aiming for highest volume. So because we're optimizing for leads, that's what that means. Highest volume means Meta's going to try and get you as many leads as possible. I can select from a different option. I can talk about bid caps, or I only want to pay a certain amount per lead. After that, I want you to turn my ads off. Again, these are relatively complex things and stuff that I would recommend saving for once you've got more experience with Facebook ads, bid caps, cost per results, all that sort of stuff. So we're just going to go ahead with the default, which is highest volume. Then we've got ad scheduling here. Because we're using a daily budget, we can't put in a schedule here. If we switch that over to lifetime budgets, we could put in a schedule like we want ads on these days, not these days, times and things like that. I still don't think that's a good enough reason to use lifetime budgets, because there is actually another way that you can set up schedules. I've got another video about that using automated rules. I'll include that in the video description below. Okay, right, now let's jump over to the ad set level. Okay, so then when we come through to the ad set level, obviously the first thing at the top is the ad set name, but I want you to not worry about that now, because what we put in there is going to depend on the targeting options that we do select. So don't worry about that now, we'll come back to that later. Next, we've got conversion location. Now the default is instant forms, and you might be familiar with that sort of ad where you click on an ad within Facebook or Instagram, and instead of being taken through to a website or a landing page or something like that, you are instead presented with a form in-app that you can then submit your information. That gets sent on to the advertiser, and then the business can contact those leads and find out, try and progress them through the sales funnel. That's, by the way, remember when we were in Better Business Suite and there was a lead center? That's where you get those leads from. Now, Meta is pushing this option, and that's the default, because they want to keep people in-app. They want to keep people in Instagram, in Facebook, as opposed to sending them off-app, because that's how Meta makes its money, right? The longer people spend in there, the more ads they see, all that sort of stuff. Now, instant forms, that option, usually results in a cheaper cost per lead, which sounds great, right? Why wouldn't you want to pay as little as possible for the leads that you're looking to generate? And it's a cheaper cost per lead because it's lower barrier to entry for people. They are in-app. But often the leads are worse quality than if you send them to your website. So we use instant forms all the time. Definitely something I'd recommend. I'll include a link in the video description below to another video talking all about using instant forms and what we'd recommend and how they work and all that sort of stuff. But I think as a beginner, particularly if this is your first ad campaign and you do already have a website, you're better off sending people through to your website. If you don't have a website, use instant forms. But I think sending to your website, getting people to become a lead there is going to result in a higher quality of lead. And unless you have like salespeople ready to filter out leads that are coming through instant forms, that's probably the better option. It'd be easier for them to get in touch with you. There's less likely things to go wrong effectively. So that's what I recommend beginners do, start with website, but absolutely test instant forms at some point, and there'll be a link in the video description to show you exactly how to do that. Also, when I select website, it means that as we go through this process, if you're following along with a sales campaign, you can also follow along, because you're going to be sending people almost certainly to your website, to your Shopify store, whatever you have, okay? So that's conversion location. Now there are other options, things like Messenger, Instagram, where you can send people there and get them to send you a message through those apps and then progress people through your sales funnel that way. You could do calls, get people to try and call you directly. Not something I'd recommend for now, more of an advanced setup. There are great stuff that can be done with Messenger, Instagram, but it can get quite tricky. So I'd leave that off for now. Then we get into the performance goal. Now, remember at the beginning when I talked about the campaign objectives and how important that is because it dictates how Meta optimizes your campaign? Well, that is true, but you also need to match that with the right performance goal, otherwise your campaign won't be optimized properly. So you can see the default here is maximize number of conversions. So Meta is going to try and get us as many conversions as possible, in this case, leads via our website, because that's how we've set it up. We can change this if we wanted to maximize number of landing page views, maximize number of link clicks. But I wouldn't recommend that, because if you do that, you're not optimizing for the thing that you really want. Remember how important that is. And also, if you select maximize number of link clicks, that's actually just going to function like a traffic campaign because it's just going to try and get you link clicks. If you go maximize daily unique reach, it's actually just going to try and get you reach, which is like an awareness campaign. So it's counterproductive. Definitely go with maximize number of conversions. Then we need to make sure you've got the right pixel selected, assuming you have a pixel set up and it's available in here, it's added to your business manager. You do need to have a pixel set up and installed on your website to go with what I'm talking about setting up now. If you don't already have that set up, I'll include a link in the video description below to another video that shows you exactly how to get the meta pixel set up and importantly, how to get the conversion event set up. So you can see this next section is conversion event. I'm going to go ahead and select lead here. And what we're saying with this ad set is that Meta, I want you to get me conversions. I want you to get me leads. And whenever on my website, this lead conversion event is triggered, that's a lead. Whenever that occurs, someone reaches the thank you page after they fill out a contact form. And on that page, a lead conversion event is triggered, that gets fed back into my ad account. Then Meta knows how to optimize your campaigns. They know who becomes a lead, who doesn't become a lead. Very, very important. I'm getting this warning here saying a lead conversion event hasn't been triggered in the last 14 days, simply because this is an example ad account and we don't run ad campaigns actually through it. So if you are seeing that warning, you need to worry about it, but it's not something for us to worry about in this demonstration purpose. Absolutely make sure you've got to get your pixel set up. It's quick and easy to do nowadays. There's lots of really useful integrations. The video will help you out with that, but need to make sure you get that set up. Okay, next is, well, cost per result is grayed out, not something you need to worry about anyway, but if I click on this more options section here, we've got attribution setting. So if I just quickly explain what this is. Attribution setting is how long after someone has interacted with your ads can they then become, in this case, a lead, but it could be any action that you're tracking and you're optimizing for, and that still be included within your data. So let's say, for example, someone clicks on my ad today and they become a lead in 3 days' time. You know, they took a bit of time to think about it, they talked to their spouse, whatever, and then they became a lead, they went straight through to your website. That would still be registered as a lead within your ad account, and that's data that you can see to assess performance and also Meta can use to optimize performance. That's really useful. So I would recommend going with the maximum attribution setting as possible. We used to be able to go all the way up to 28 days. It's a shame we can't anymore, but we're not able to track for that long. But the longest you can do is 7 days on the click and then 1 day on the view. So that's, do they convert and become a lead within 7 days after they click or within 1 day after they just view or just presented with the ad? Okay, so that's what I do. And then impression there for when you get charged is just not something you need to worry about. We can't change it here anyway. And if you do have the option to, which you sometimes do, it doesn't make any difference to how much you actually pay. It's kind of like saying, you know, if you say, I want to be charged per click, or I want to be charged on an impression basis, or I want to be charged per conversion, Meta will just calculate the difference. It's kind of like saying, do you want to pay in euros or dollars? Well, if you select euros and it's just going to be converted from dollars anyway, you might as well pay in dollars. Doesn't make any difference, right? Okay, next we get down to dynamic creative. This is definitely an advanced technique, not something I'd recommend you mess with as a beginner. If you are interested, there'll be another link in the video description below to a whole video about dynamic creative, how to use it, strategies around it, all that sort of stuff. I know there's going to be tons of other links and I'm mentioning lots of other resources here. I'm trying to make it so that you can either check them out or not, depending on where you are experience-wise. Just trying to make the videos useful as possible, because I know it's really frustrating when you go through tutorials and you think, well, hang on, what about that? And what about that? So yeah, so there is a lot of stuff to go check out if you want to, but you don't need to. Then we get into budget and schedule. So the start date is just going to be whenever you're actually, you know, creating the campaign. That's going to be default there. And if you want to, you can set an end date. So for example, if you were just running like a Christmas promotion or a Black Friday promotion, you want to make sure the campaign ends, or you don't want to forget about it and end up being charged loads, you want to put an end date, you can. We don't typically do it because we're in here all the time monitoring ad campaigns, making adjustments. So we have a lot of manual control, but not everyone's going to do that. So we don't normally set an end date. If you're not using campaign budget optimization, or actually advantage campaign budget as it's now called, then you'll also have a budget section in here. Remember, we moved that to the campaign level. So we don't have that in here, it's just the schedule option. And then if I click on the show more options setting here, we can add in a ad set spending limit, just like we had the campaign spending limit. So if you want more control, just absolutely make sure you're not going to overspend, or you want to make sure you don't spend more than certain amounts on certain ad sets, you can do that. Now we get into the audience control section. Now this bit might seem a little bit confusing, but we're going to sort of go through it step by step, try and make it as easy to understand as possible. First thing I need to mention is that in this ad account, we've got Advantage Plus Audience, which is newish within this ad account. Some people have had Advantage Plus Audience for ages at this point. Some ad accounts have only just got it. Some ad accounts don't have it yet. So with that in mind, I'm going to try and cover different options. I'm going to show you how you would set things up with Advantage Plus Audience, the setting as we've got right here in front of us. And then I'm also going to tell you about how it would look if you don't have Advantage Plus Audience and some of the tweaks and adjustments that you'd want to make. When you watch this video, you may have both, you may just have one. So hopefully we can cover all bases and you'll be fine either way, because you can run ads, no problem, depending on what structure you have. So the first thing here, when it comes to targeting, if we click edit, is our location. Now it's defaulted to the United Kingdom because that's where I'm based. And what I'd recommend for the location that you want to target is only advertise in the locations where you can actually deliver your product or service. Who can you serve? So if you're an e-commerce business, for example, you can probably ship nationally, maybe internationally as well. If you're a digital service-based business like ours, we work with clients all over the world. We could target people in Australia or the US or Canada, or obviously here in the UK, or we have clients in Singapore and South Africa and Nigeria and all over the world, right? So we can do that. But also we could just have a local business where we need to advertise in a very specific area, and you can do any of those things, and what you want to do is whatever's best for your business. This is not so much like an ad account settings thing, what's best for the Facebook ad account, it's what's best for your business. So for example, if we wanted to advertise locally, just so I can quickly show you that, I live in a town called Cheltenham in the UK. And there we go, Cheltenham in Gloucestershire. And you can see once we add in that town, we can then set a radius around it. It's currently set to 25. Like we could limit that down to, 15. I only want to target Cheltenham plus 15 miles. And just think about, okay, how far am I willing to travel to work with people? How far are they willing to travel to visit our restaurant, gym, whatever your business is? In our case, if we were advertising our Facebook ad services, we wouldn't go local because we don't just operate locally. We would certainly add in the United Kingdom, but we would also probably add in some of our other largest markets like the US, Canada, Australia, places like that. Or obviously same language in terms of being able to advertise, makes things easy, but you could advertise many more countries. For demonstration purposes, I'm just going to go with the United Kingdom as a whole. So I think that's kind of a good middle ground and a good benchmark, okay? Now, what we can do here with this show more options thing is set in some hard boundaries of a few different things before we get into the audience plus Advantage Plus audience, which is about suggestions. I'll explain what that means in a minute. So we can add in a minimum age here, okay? 18 is the default, you can go all the way up to 25. We absolutely don't want to advertise to anyone younger than this age, and that is a hard line. So if I select 25, 23-year-olds not going to see my ads. And that's probably something that we would do, because our typical targeting when it comes to age for our digital marketing services is 25 plus. Fairly broad, fairly open. That's what I'd recommend with age, but that's what we go with. Custom audiences I'm going to talk about a little bit later on. This is about excluding custom audiences, so don't worry about that for now. And then languages. We would just go with all languages, particularly advertising in the UK, but certain businesses might want to specify certain languages. So a good example might be if you're, if you operate in the French-speaking part of Canada and you only work with French speakers for some reason, then you can specify French as opposed to English, which obviously there will be in those areas as well. So that's just going to depend on your business, where you're advertising, how many different languages are there, do you work with certain groups and not others for whatever reason, then that's fine. Okay, then we get into Advantage Plus Audience, which is a feature that is absolutely recommended. It's what Meta wants us to use, and it's something I would recommend for beginners. So the difference between Advantage Plus Audience and what we used to have is that with Advantage Plus Audience, our targeting criteria that we add here, they are suggestions, not hard boundaries. So for example, age here is 25 to 65. If I said to Meta, for example, most of our clients are age 30 to 55, let's say, then Meta goes, okay, great, I've got that information. I'll start with those people. But if I think that there's someone that would be really interested in what you have to offer based on their online activity and their activity within Facebook and Instagram, who is 28 or who is 64, I'm also going to put ads in front of them. And that's why this is a good option for beginners, because it's less likely that you, like if you try and specify an audience and you've just made a mistake, Meta's going to go beyond that and find other people that are likely to take your desired action. And that's, by the way, why it's so important that we optimize our campaigns for the right thing. In this scenario, leads could also be sales, okay? So these are suggestions as opposed to hard boundaries. So if it was our business, for example, we would go with 25 plus usually. We have like a very wide range on that. When it comes to genders, we have male clients, female clients across the board, so you could go either way on that. Some businesses will be 90% male, 90% female, in which case you could select one or the other. But again, in those scenarios, this is a suggestion. So if your business is 90% male, well, you don't want to miss out on the 10%, and that's fine because Advantage Plus audience will find them. But I would just leave that as all. Then we get into detailed targeting, and here you can just add in things that are relevant to what you advertise. Don't overthink this, don't worry about it too much. So for example, if we're advertising our Facebook ad services, we could look to advertise to people interested in digital marketing. Other options could be things like social media marketing, for example. And we want to get the interest option there, and obviously they're within the marketing category is what that's showing there. Okay, so just have a little, you could browse through the various options, have a little think about it. You could browse through and go, okay, interests, family relationships, fatherhood, great, I want to advertise to people interested in fatherhood because we advertise dads and kids day out, you know, a soccer game, whatever, you know, whatever it is that you advertise, you can find some options either by entering in or doing the browse option. Now, one thing that I like to do when it comes to testing different ad sets is only include one detailed targeting option. So for example, if we identified that these were two that we wanted to test, we would delete out one of them in this ad set, and then in another ad set, test the social media marketing interest and see if there's a difference in performance between the two, see which one performs best, because over time, that's going to be really useful info, and we can then focus on the better performing audience. Okay, so it's not a huge point, particularly with Advantage Plus, because they're going to go beyond your audience sometimes anyway, but that's something I want to mention in there. And we've also got custom audiences. So custom audiences are really broken down into two main sections. There's the custom audiences themselves, which would be retargeting. That would be advertising to people that have interacted with your business before, website visitors, people on your email list, people who have bought before, people who have interacted with you on Facebook or Instagram, which is definitely something I'd recommend you do. Don't need to do it right now. That could be done a little bit later. You probably won't have much in the way of warm audiences anyway if you're just getting started. In an ideal world, you wouldn't use Advantage Plus audience for that. I'll explain why in a second. And then there's also lookalike audiences. So lookalike audience, instead of specifically advertising to people that have, say, visited our website before, we could say to Facebook, these are the people that have bought from us, but I also want you to create me a lookalike audience of people that are very similar to people who've bought from me before and advertise to them. Because if all my customers happen to be 42-year-old females who are interested in these three things, I would quite like you to find me people that fit the same bill, and we can advertise to them as well. That's what a lookalike audience is. I'll include links in the video description to both a custom audience tutorial and a lookalike audience tutorial, so you can go through those if you want to. Again, a bit more of an advanced, or at least an intermediate technique, I'd say. Don't worry about those to start with. You can look to add those in later down the line, but this is where you would add them in. Again, with Advantage Plus audience, they would then be suggestions, not hard boundaries, and Meta would potentially expand. Okay. So that's how you would set things up from a targeting standpoint if you are using Advantage Plus audience. And as I said, depending on when you watch this, you may only have that option, you may only have the original option, you may have both, as I've got in this ad account, but we can also switch to original. Now we can see that when we start to do this, Meta's like, well, hang on, you definitely want to use Advantage Plus audience, you might miss out on 33% lower cost per result. I think that's probably overestimating how effective Advantage Plus audience is. I mean, it does say up to, right? So, you know, they're kind of using the statistic. It won't be a lie, but they're using the statistic in a way that leads you to believe that the difference is a bit more significant than it actually is. But you can still go through and click on use original audience. And then the big difference here from going to the original audience is that these targeting criteria are going to be more like hard boundaries. They're not going to be 100% strict, because you can see here detailed targeting has been applied. So Meta will still in certain circumstances go beyond your targeting options, but it's more of a hard boundary than with Advantage Plus, where it's just a suggestion. So it's possible that someone, you know, under 25 could see an ad, but it's less likely with this setup. So we still use this a good amount when we want more control as more advanced advertisers, when we want to really specifically test stuff. For most beginners, this is just not something that you need to worry about, and you can go with Advantage Plus audience. But if you don't have Advantage Plus audience and you're going through this, you're thinking, can I run an ad campaign? Absolutely. Do it this way. It'll work just fine. Basically, don't worry about it either way. You can crack on and move forward. Okay, so I'm going to switch back to Advantage Plus audience because that's what we are talking about here. And then we've got all this set up. It's just defaulted some of the stuff, but that's fine. We've already been through that. I want to get down to this placement section. Okay. So what we can see here is that the placement section is defaulted to what's all placements, right? What has been called Advantage Plus placements and various different names. And placements, what that means is the locations within Facebook and Instagram where your ads are shown. So obviously there's different locations, right? So you could see an ad on your Facebook feed or on your Instagram feed or in an Instagram story or in a Facebook reel, or there's lots of different options, right? So you can get more specific and edit these placements. You've got to click about 9 times to do this, but you can do it. So I've clicked on one, then you click edit, and then you can see here that there are a few different options for getting rid of specific stuff like the audience network. So the audience network is not the sort of stuff that you traditionally think of as Facebook and Instagram ads. It's more like people creating content and then your ads are displayed in and alongside other people's content. So you can specifically deselect these ones if you want at this stage, or you can go one step further and switch back to manual placements, which is what we used to easily be able to do, but Meta are burying this because they don't think it's better for advertisers. And then you could get really specific, right? So you'd be like, no, I'm just going to advertise on Facebook. I don't want to advertise on Instagram at all. Get rid of the audience network, get rid of Messenger, or vice versa, right? I only want to advertise on Instagram. I don't want to advertise anywhere else. Or I'm happy to advertise on Facebook and Instagram, but I only want to advertise on feeds and stories. I don't want any of this other stuff like search results and things along those lines. You can get more specific. I have videos talking about placement options and the best approach. If you are going with the leads campaign objective or the sales campaign objective, as you should be as a beginner, then it's absolutely fine to not use manual placements. Switch back to Meta's recommended placement options and let Meta put your ads where they want to put them. The reason why is because there are poorer performing placement options. Things like the audience network do not perform as well as feeds and stories most of the time. But if you've told Meta, I want leads, I want sales, Meta knows this and they're going to only put your ads in places where you're likely to get the best results. Where you do need to come in and use manual placements is if you're going to be using an awareness campaign or a traffic campaign or engagement campaign, something like that. Then you need to have more control because you need to guarantee your ads will be on the best quality placements, because otherwise Meta could get you tons of awareness and tons of reach by putting your ads, you know, wherever people are, and the cheapest place is going to be audience networks. You get a lot of impressions there. Okay, so that's something that's really important to get across. The way you've set it up, absolutely fine to go with what Meta recommends. If you're going to change it up and use some of the other strategies, and when I do talk in other videos about other strategies, I do say, make sure you make this change, make sure you do this. It's really important. Okay, and that's us gone through the ad set level. One other thing I want to quickly touch on here before we move on is this audience definition, this thing over on the other side. You can see that Meta gives you a bit of a guide for audience size. Like there's too specific, there's too broad, and then there's sort of nicely in the middle. If you're using Advantage Plus audience, I don't really worry too much about this audience size because Meta's going to go beyond it. It's not such a big deal. If you are using the original audience setup, just be careful about your estimated audience size being too small. So here we've got what, 4.1 to 4.9 million. That's great. In an ideal world, you wouldn't have this estimated audience size. If you're using the original audience setup, go below 500,000 people. That would be a minimum. I don't worry too much about a maximum. We will sometimes target just absolutely everyone. We won't add in any detailed targeting options, and that's fine. You can do that, at least test that. But yeah, but just be careful with the too small audience. Obviously, with some local businesses, that's not possible. If there's only 50,000 people in your local area or 10,000 people in your local area, then, and that's the only people you can serve and you want to run ads, then that's fine. Go ahead and do that. Don't worry about the 500,000. But if you're not local and you are advertising nationally, internationally to a decent sized population, I would just watch out for that. Meta will give you warnings about this over here on the right hand side, but I just wanted to highlight that because something that people often bring up. Estimated daily results, we haven't got anything popping up in here, but in general, they are very inaccurate. So if Meta says things like, you may get 0 leads, you may get 0 sales, don't worry about it. Run your campaign anyway. Particularly when your ad account is new, they don't really know, honestly. They're just kind of guessing. So not something to particularly stress about. And it's something I get a lot of questions about and I understand, but just something you need to know that you don't need to worry about. Okay, now it's time to jump over to the ad level. Okay, so then we get into the ad section. Now in terms of ad name, I'd recommend that you do the same with the ad set and campaign, right? To call it something that's gonna make sense at a glance. So that's usually gonna be based on the image or video that we're using and the headlines and things like that. So you don't need to worry about that right now. We can do that at the end of setting the ad up. Then we've got this partnership ad section. You know, if you're going to be running ads in partnership with other creators and brands and businesses, then you can turn this on. It's going to have both of you featured. it's very unlikely you're going to be doing that if you're relatively new to Facebook advertising. So I wouldn't worry about that. It's not going to apply. Then you've got identity right. Make sure you've got the right Facebook page selected if you have multiple. And then also with your Instagram account, you want to make sure that you've got your Instagram account selected as well. You saw that there was an option there to create to connect an Instagram account if you haven't already done that, okay? Then we get down into this ad setup section. Now, there are a couple of options in here. So we've got create ad, which is the default, or we could use an existing post. So if you've got a video or an image on Facebook, Instagram that you really like and want to just use that as an ad to get started, you can absolutely do that. Select use existing post, then you'll see various options and you can go ahead and select that. Most people are going to want to create their ad from scratch here. It's unlikely you have something that's a post that would work really well as an ad as well. So I'm going to go through and demonstrate the create ad option. Creative Hub mockup's just not something you need to worry about at this stage. Then we've got manual upload. You can see there is a catalog option depending on what you're advertising and how it's set up. Like for example, you can import a catalog of your products from Shopify if you're an e-commerce store and run a catalog. Something I definitely recommend that you do as an advertiser, but not yet. Let's get started with something really simple. And along those lines, we're going to keep it really simple with format as well. So we're going to go ahead and use, in this case, just a single image. We can experiment later on with videos, carousels, and all that sort of stuff. So we're going to go with single image. As I said, I really like reducing the barrier to entry, making it easy. We can always add other things in that are more complex later down the line, which in my experience, most time advertisers get really comfortable with the platform within a few days, maybe a couple of weeks, depending on how much time they're spending in there. You can always look to do this stuff later on. Okay, then we've got multi-advertiser ads. As a campaign at this stage, it doesn't really matter either way. It just means that when someone clicks on someone else's ad, are you happy for your ad to be displayed alongside those, like smaller, if that makes sense? I think it's fine to leave on. I'm not a big fan of this feature overall when it comes to the platform, but in terms of setting up your campaigns, absolutely fine to go ahead and leave that on. Okay, then we get down into the ad creative section. The first thing we want to do is add in our image or our video. In this case, we're going to go ahead and add in an image. So there's a few different options in here. You may have images already in your ad account, in which case there'll be account images and you see various options here. This is a demonstration ad account, so there's all sorts. You can also click on this, so there might be images that you've got on your Instagram profile that you want to use or your Facebook page you want to use. Just select those options, and then if I click on Instagram images, for example, we will see that there are various options from Instagram that I could go ahead and select and use and stuff that's been added in. But I'm going to go ahead back to account images, and I'm going to upload a new image that I just saved, that had saved to my desktop, and then I'm going to go ahead and select that, and then I'm going to go ahead and click next. Now, just to quickly explain the type of ad we're going to be creating, I'm going to use something I've used in the past. We've run as an ad that did really well, and it's an interior design business, something that's quite visual, and we're offering something fairly simple, and I think it's a good demonstration for service-based businesses. But I've got other videos that talk about e-commerce businesses and generating sales and all that sort of stuff in case you want to know how to do that and do those, right? Okay, so then we have the three main placement categories in terms of how things are going to look. So we already discussed placements at the ad set level. We've got feeds as one main category, stories and reels as another, and then this over here on the right in more landscape, which only applies to a few. So here we can just make a few adjustments to the image that we've uploaded to make it look better. So for example, that's what it would look like in feeds and stories if we just use that image as is. But I think if we go ahead and select one-to-one, yes, it zooms in, punches in, but because it's like an interior we're trying to demonstrate, I think that looks better. So we're going to go ahead and do this. We can't do that with stories. We're inevitably going to have this good chunk above and good chunk below, and that's fine. Now, in an ideal world, we would replace this image, right? We would click replace, and we would have asked, in this case, because interior design, the photographer to take landscape images and portrait images so that we can crop and make them all look good. But as a beginner getting started, it's fine to just have the one image. It's not ideal, but it's okay. It's not going to wreck your campaign. You can go with something that looks like this. It's not going to look that bad when it actually comes to running and being shown to people. If you spend some time in stories and reels on Facebook, Instagram, and you see the ads that pop up, loads of them won't have stuff above or below. They won't be so fully optimized for that placement option, and that's okay. Over here, I think that looks a little bit better than what we had. You can obviously crop like different ways if you want. You can replace, you can do all sorts. Okay, then we click next. Then we get into this Advantage Plus creative section, what used to be called standard enhancements and still is. And we can just turn on all optimizations, which honestly is what I'd recommend. but you might want to have a quick look through some of these. Most of these are absolutely fine. You can just leave them on. And this is basically Meta using AI to improve your ad creative for you. Okay, so for example, they're going to automatically add music. Now you probably want to check that music and make sure that it fits with your brand and you're happy with it. You can, if you want to, just go ahead and turn that off, right? So we could be like, no, I don't want any music, or you can leave it on, or you can see some of the various options down here and you could change music. I'm going to go through all of that. Then we've got like relevant comments are going to be displayed underneath your image. Do you want that? Yes, that's normally going to help. Do you want an image filter to make your image look a little bit better? And AI is going to work that out automatically. Yeah, that's fine. 3D animation doesn't work here. Image template, are you happy for like your headline to be displayed above your image in a little like bar up here? If Meta thinks it's going to help improve performance, yeah, that's probably fine. Visual touch-ups is very same to the image filter. Yeah, go ahead and do it. Text improvements, are you happy for me to move text between headline and primary text and description? I think for most beginners, that's absolutely fine as well. Again, more advanced advertisers might want to take control of this stuff, but when you're getting started, I'd go with that without worrying about it too much. And then we've got expand image. So you know where he said the image didn't look as good on like stories, for example, Meta might be able to fix that for us. They might be able to use AI to automatically generate stuff above and below. It's what's called image outcropping. So a bunch of AI tools. I basically recommend that you add these in. It's going to be absolutely fine. The only one that you really might want to watch out for is that music, in my opinion, where you think, oh, that might lead to something that's just not quite right, not what I want to do. Okay, so we can go ahead and click done on those. And I think we had all those turned on. Oh no, I turned the music off, didn't I? So we've got 7 out of 8 optimizations in there, which is fine. And we can now also see this preview on the right-hand side of what our ad's going to look like, and we can see it by placement option. So for example, we've got feeds here. This is a Facebook feed. That's what our ad's going to look like in a Facebook feed, like looking pretty good. We could change that and be like, what's it going to look like in an Instagram feed? Well, that's what it's going to look like in an Instagram feed at the moment. Obviously, we haven't added the text in. What's it going to look like on Instagram stories? Okay, you know, yeah, that looks decent. That doesn't look too bad. We're trying to demonstrate this really cool looking interior. We're selling interior design services. This all fits, right? Okay, then we get to our primary text, headline, and things like that. So I've just gone and copied and pasted some primary text in there. And remember, this is taken from an ad, which is very similar to an ad that we ran for a client that did really quite well, okay? So let me just explain this primary text here. We're starting with what's called the call out method. Moving house, question mark, redecorating, question mark. When you include things like that, it helps people who are taking those actions realize that the ad is for them, and then they'll pay more attention to the rest of the ad. So when we're talking to this interior designer, they told us like, look, anyone who hires us, they're either moving house anyway, or they're doing like a big remodeling or something like that. You don't hire interior designer for small projects. So by having this in there, if someone's just scroll, oh, yeah, I am actually moving house. Okay, I'll check that, and they'll pay more attention to it. It's a great little technique that you can throw into primary text. You can do the same thing with like locations as well. Like you could be like New Yorkers and then have a bunch of stuff. There's all sorts of cool stuff that you can do there. So we've got that to start with, and then we've got after that following up with some benefits associated with the service. Like this is small, punchy, just one sentence after that. We'll design a beautiful interior for your home and manage the project for you. 2 big benefits. Who doesn't want a beautiful interior? Everyone does. And who doesn't want someone else to manage the project for you if that work needs to be done? That sounds great. We all know there's a lot of hassle involved in that sort of work, right? So 2 very, very simple benefits, and that's a really nice primary text. By the way, with the previews, we can see what this looks like. So that's what it's going to look like on a stories at the moment. We come back up to the Facebook feed, we can see that that's where the text's going to be above the image, but we keep it nice, short, simple. You can come up with other variations. You can add text options. You can see primary text 1 of 5. You can come up with long form ones, get really sort of experimental with the stuff. That is up to you, but not necessary at this point. I think keep it simple. Okay, let's add in a headline. So I've just pasted in a headline that is very simple and just describes what it is we're offering. What's the next step for someone to take? Do they get 25% off if they buy before the end of, you know, Cyber Monday? What do they get? In this case, the introductory offer for this business is very simply a free interior design consultation. If you're moving house, you're redecorating, you're thinking, we could do with some help on this. We don't really know what we're doing. Let's hire an interior design company. Oh, the first step is to just go for a free consultation. Well, that's very low barrier to entry. I can go ahead and do something like this. It's a very simple, but a really nice and effective little offer. And this is on a bit of a lag, by the way, this preview, but it will pop the headline in for us as we go through. Again, we can add headline options all the way up to 5 if we want to. I don't think it's necessary yet. Okay, we've also got a description to add in. Okay, so this description is emphasizing what we've already talked about. You know, the fact they can get a free consultation in the headline, and the headline's going to grab their attention more, but it's also then bringing in another benefit. Want a free consultation with our award-winning designers? It's like a little bit of extra incentive to help get them to take that action. Award-winning, that sounds great. Optimized text per person, we've already talked about, where that's allowing Meta to move text between various locations. Advanced advertisers often don't like that because they want more control. I think with beginners, it's fine to include that in. And then we've got a call to action button. So we can see here over on the right-hand side, we've got learn more as the call to action. You just want to select the option that best describes the action that you want people to take. So I think learn more is a decent option for someone looking to sign up for a free interior design consultation. They're obviously going to come through to the website first. They're going to check out the portfolio and just see if it looks like a good option. But we could look to change this up. We could change it to sign up, for example. And you can see there's lots of different call to action buttons here, but just go with the one that best describes the action you want people to take. You don't need to make this complicated or think about it too much, okay? We're just going to leave that as learn more for now. Then we've got destination. Where are you actually going to send people? Now this just wants to be your website or the specific page on your website where you're actually wanting to send people. So I could pop in my website and Heath Media, for example. That wouldn't be the one we'd use for an interior design business, it would be the client's interior design business, but you get what I mean, and you could add in the specific page. So then you've also got the display link where you could display something slightly different if you wanted to. There are rules around this. It's not really something you need to worry about. You can see how the link is being displayed, heathmedia.co.uk, and you can see how the ad looks on a Facebook feed, and also you can obviously take a look and how's it going to look on Instagram feeds and all that sort of stuff, which is useful to be able to do. Okay, in here we've got browser add-ons. Again, not something I think you need to worry about as a Facebook ads beginner. You can add specific things to try and get people to call. We're not using instant forms here, so I think it's absolutely fine to just go with none, which is the default. Same with instant experience and Facebook events. Things you can play around with. We don't do that often as Facebook advertisers, but not something you need to worry about at this point. If you want to be advertising to multiple sort of locations or multiple languages within the same location even, with different languages, and you can add in translations and things like that. Again, that's not going to apply to many people. And then this stuff down here is all to do with the pixel. Now we've already talked about that, and I said there's a link in the video description to another video talking all about the pixel and how to set it up, and that's something that you need to do to be able to track conversions, whether it's sales or leads via your website. So once you've got that set up, all this will just be taken care of, and you shouldn't have warnings like this saying it's not active. The only reason why we have that is because this is an example ad account. Then you can go ahead and click publish. Now I'm not going to do that here because we don't want to publish this campaign. You don't want to be running an interior design ad through my accounts. That wouldn't make any sense, but you want to click publish. Meta's going to take a bit of time to review it, and then you'll be able to have your ads go live, and they'll start being put in front of people, and hopefully you start generating leads and sales relatively soon. So if I minimize that down and we go to the campaign level, now in order for those ads to actually go live, you are going to need to make sure that you've got billing set up and you have some sort of payment method associated with your ad account. Otherwise, Meta will probably give you warnings and let you know that you need to do that, but otherwise your ads simply won't run. So the way to just check on that is if you go ahead and these two little lines again, and you just click on billing, and that'll take you to a section where you can add payment methods very easily. Then you can come in here and add payment methods. You can add a card, and basically Meta wants to make sure that before you run ads, you are actually going to be able to pay them. So you just come in here and get that all set up. If I jump back into Ads Manager though, okay, and then I also just quickly want to talk about ad campaign structure. So we've got the one campaign, and you know how I talked about testing different ad sets? Like one ad set could be for, in our case, digital marketing interest. Another ad set could be targeting social media marketing interest. So what we would do then is we would change the name of this. So we would have this one as digital marketing. It was UK, I believe we went with 25 plus. Again, just information that's going to help you understand what this is, but we can save that, and that's got the ad within it, because remember it's tiered, right? So you have your ads within your ad sets. What we can do is we can highlight this, and we can just click duplicate, and we can duplicate it into the original campaign, so the campaign it's already in, or into a new campaign. There's a few different options there. I'm just going to duplicate it into the campaign it's in. So we now have the one campaign you can see up here, and we've got a digital marketing ad set. And what we want to do with this copy is change this to a social media marketing ad set. Get rid of copy. And then we want to scroll down, and where we've got this in here is digital marketing, just delete that. And instead add in social media marketing. And what this will allow us to do is test different detailed targeting options, or you could test lookalikes or lots of different things, and you can see what performs best and then go from there. Okay, and that's just how we set that up. You can do the exact same with different ads. So here we've got a simple ad for an interior designer with an image like an open plan area, but you could test different images, and then you would just simply click on these three little lines, duplicate, copy the ad, and go about exactly what I just showed you how to do. Then when it comes to the campaign actually running, and once it's live, you'll start to hopefully see results, right? So the thing to really keep an eye on is this results column here, okay? So we've got our New Year leads campaign. When we start generating, in this case, leads, because that's what we've set up the campaign to optimize for, we will see how many leads we're generating in results, and we should also see cost per result. How much is each one of those leads costing us? And you can see all sorts of other information, but those are the two things I really want you to focus on, because that's what's important to your business. It's going to be how much you pay per lead that determines how successful your campaign is, whether it's performed well, whether it hasn't, whether it's profitable, whether you can scale, whether you need to turn it off, whether you need to make adjustments. It's all based on those metrics. It's either your cost per conversion, or if you're running like an e-commerce business and you've got a sales campaign, you'd often look at your return on ad spend. So if you spent $1,000 on Facebook ads and you've generated $3,000 in sales, then you've got a 3x return on ad spend. That would be the metric that you'll see. As I said, there's all sorts of other things you can look at, but those are things to really focus in on. Now, I've just shown you how to create a very simple ad. If you want to go the next step further and create epic ads that convert really well and are really impressive, I'd strongly recommend you check out this video. In it, I share a tool that you can use to really quickly and easily produce high quality ad creative. I also show you how to write more advanced headlines, primary text, and things like that. Go ahead and check it out.